Hello everyone, my name is Vanessa Walker and the name of this channel is called Gnostic Knowledge, and what I am doing on this channel is reading from a book, and the name of that book is called Letters and Numbers, written by Zachary K. Hubbard. And I would encourage each of you to get a copy of this book, and you can do that by visiting his YouTube channels, Gematria Effect News or Gematria Effect Sports. And in the description of each video he does, he leaves a link for you to purchase this book for $5, the best $5 you'll ever spend. The book is a PDF file, and it will come to you via email once you purchase the book, and then you can save the file to whichever device you're going to use to read the book. He also left the copyright off this book so that you can take it to your local bindery and have it bound into a book for your own personal library, or you can upload it to lulu.com and they will bind it into a book and mail it back to you for a fee. But having it as an electronic file makes it so much easier to search for information in this book, because there are 773 pages in this book. But the information is just mind-blowing, mind-boggling, and I think every human being on this earth should know this information. And so that's why I am reading the book, as a matter of fact, for some of those who don't care for reading. And like I said, I know I don't have the best reading voice, but I think I can do a good enough job to convey the information to enough to where you can understand it, and hopefully it will prompt you to purchase the book, because everyone needs to know this information. Also, Zachary K. Hubbard wrote a second book called Number Games, and you can get this book by visiting his blog page, gematriaeffectnews.blogspot.com. The first thing you'll see when you arrive at that page is the advertising for the book. As you scroll down, you will see the information on how to purchase the book. This book is a paperback book, and the instructions is for ordering the book within the United States and abroad. So I encourage you to get both of these books. Also, if you become a Patreon of Zachary K. Hubbard, at the $1 tier per month, you can get both books via email as a PDF file format, and the books are phenomenal. The information in these books are priceless in my view, and I am so glad that he wrote these books and that he has made it available to the public, because you won't get this information anywhere else freely, without doing something that would probably go against morals. But anyway, I think this information is best to know it than not know it, and it's surprising how many people I've told about this information but they dismiss it. But I'm glad to know it. And can I change the world with it? No, but if enough people were to be aware of this knowledge, then maybe something can change. That's what has to happen. Enough people has to know this information in order to make some sort of changes in the system that we live under. Was there anything else I want to say? Yeah, Zachary K. Hubbard also has another blog page called freetofindtruth.blogspot.com. He's blogged on that page for over 5 years, so there's a ton of content there for you to read. And this information isn't something you have to believe in or have to have faith in. No, everything that he's written about in this book, on those blogs, they are fact based. Is it something you can prove to yourself? You don't need him to prove it to you. There's other things that once you learn this code, you will see it. You can't unsee it. And it's just amazing. So I hope that you do yourself a favor and get these books, get this information, teach it to your children. They're going to need to know it. And so far, I'm moving along here. And also be sure to watch his videos. Watch his videos on Kobe Bryant. Watch his videos on Chadwick Boseman. Watch his videos on any video that he's done they are just, man, gematria speaks for itself. I will put it that way. But yeah, do that. And if you visit gematrinator.com, there is a tab there called blogs, and there are other people that are blogging the same information about gematria. And also gematrinator.com, that's where you would go to utilize the calculator to write in words and phrases to get the numerical values, because what gematria is the encoding of numbers within our letters. Our letters are in fact numbers, and every word we speak has a numerical value. So once you learn this code, you'll become more and more, you'll understand more and more exactly what I'm saying, what I'm trying to convey right now. And you won't see history the same anymore. So, with that said, I am continuing. This will be my fourth reading of chapter 14. And chapter 14 is entitled Crusades, War, World Wars by the Numbers. Crusades, War, and World Wars by the Numbers. And I am starting on page 296. The Korean War, June 25th, 1950 to July 27, 1953. Okay? The Korean War began a span of 156 days after the death of George Orwell, January 21st, 1950, on what would have been his 47th birthday, June 25th, 1950. A date that comes up again and again in history, and not coincidentally. Consider, Orwell was a member of the Fabian Society, where Fabian sums to 33 in ordinal gematria, similar to the reduction gematria of Winston, also equating to 33, the main character from his most remembered novel, 1984, titled in accordance with the 100-year anniversary of the establishment of the Fabian Society, which was 1884. As you know, when you write out 33, it also equates to 156. And as you also know, the number 33 factors into war games. As a reminder, 1984 is a fictional story about a nation ruled over by a militaristic government that keeps its people in check with propaganda and constant fear-based intimidation, and a nation that is continually at war overseas for seemingly unknown reasons to the people governed over by the same deceitful regime. In that breath, the Korean War, which was a civil war between North and South Korea, was just that for the people of the United States of America, who seemingly had no real interest in the war other than what the government was telling them, to fight the spread of communism, which was said to be a threat to freedom and democracy. But think about the reasoning in light of the truth of our existence, where elections are rigged and leaders are predetermined, and where the classes are maintained through purposeful barriers that keep some people rich and some people poor. Sure, there is capitalism and consumerism in the U.S., but is there freedom or quality of life? I suppose the answer is in the eye of the beholder, but certainly the United States government, in light of what it does to we the people, shouldn't be in any position to judge the government of another. Personally, as someone who sees through the lies and the needless wars and the constant fear-mongering and the spreading of hate, it has a severe impact on my quality of life, which is why I fight back, which is why I write this book, with the hope of making it end. In the Korean War, the United States backed the South and Russia, as well as China, backed the North as well as China backed the North, meaning it was also a proxy war between the three superpower nations, all entities of the New World Order, that would soon be invested in what was known as the Cold War, a 113 name we learned about earlier. Again, use this knowledge to prove that there is no difference between Russia, China, and the United States in terms of how their news is contrived and their elections are rigged. It is the same puppet show across the globe, with the same long-nosed puppeteers in charge. Who controls the debt dollars controls the strings. Something interesting about the war is how the boundary to divide the North from the South was set at the 38th parallel, the number symbolizing the words death, murder, and killing in gematria, which are the things the tyrants have used all throughout history to gain power and influence over people as well as wealth. Let us not forget the word Jew has gematria of 38, as does Jewish. Factoring in is the leader of North Korea, Kim Il-sung, who was 38 years old at the time and having the right name for being the oppositional leader to South Korea, a territory created by the Civil War, meaning he was the perfect puppet. Kim Il-sung equates to 43 in reduction. Civil War equates to 43 in reduction. South Korea equates to 43 in reduction. South Korea equates to 43 in the septenary cipher. One also wonders if it was, or if it is, coincidence that he was born on the same date the Titanic sunk, April 15, 1912. At the age 82, he would die July 8, 1994, exactly 84 days after his birthday. Not by chance, the age of 82 corresponds with North Korea, as well as the word soldier, where North Korea is a controlled military state. So North Korea equates to 82, reverse reduction, when H is counted as 10 and E counted as 22. All these years later, the boundary is unchanged for North and South Korea. And in the modern age, North Korea is propped up in international media as a threat to peace, which seems to have been the real motivation for the U.S. involvement in the war, to create a foe to hold up as a puppet on strings to say, see, there's the bad guy. Now hand over your debt dollars so Big Brother can build some more bombs just in case. Don't overlook the film Team America World Peace, where the leader of North Korea is even shown on strings as a comedic villain. Of course, the other advantage of the U.S.'s involvement in the war is in South Korea. Okay, I'm sorry, let me reread that. Of course, the other advantage of the U.S.'s involvement in the war is South Korea was made into a massive trade partner, providing cheap labor in turn cheap goods to the United States of America's consumer-based culture ever since. Remember the line from Network, "The world is a business, Mr. Bill." Speaking of which, the date the war ended in numerical terms points right to the ordinal gematria of United States. July 27 leaves 157 days left in the year. United States equates to 157 in ordinal. American equates to 37 in reduction. 157 is the 37th prime number. Speaking of the U.S. and the ongoing puppet show by the numbers with Donald Trump as the U.S. President and Mike Pence as the U.S. Vice President, and 1984 as the best seller in the nation upon their selection, the Vice President made an appearance in what is known as the DMZ, or the Demilitarized Zone, on the 38th parallel that separates the two divided Korean nations. They did this on their 88th day of occupying the White House, April 17, 2017, or 17/4, not unlike the 174 gematria of New World Order. As for it being the 88th day, here is why that was funny. Beyond Trump having gematria of 88, and beyond it being the same day as the Brayton Bay Golf Course helicopter crash. Keep in mind the location of the DMZ base is called Camp Boniface, South Korea. So, Camp Boniface, South Korea equates to 88 in reduction. Camp Boniface, South Korea equates to 119 reverse reduction. DMZ equates to 43 in ordinal. The militarized zone equates to 96 in reduction. The militarized zone equates to 93 reverse reduction. As you know, Freemason equates to 96, and propaganda equates to 93. Don't forget, Civil War has gematria of 43 as well as 119, and this is the boundary that was created by the Korean Civil War. Also, don't forget, Donald equates to 119 and was selected November 9th, years after talking to the digital sheep with numbers 11 and 9. Wow. And also the phrase from the commercial that Trump said, "Looking good, number 9, looking good," from the Serta commercial. That phrase equates to 174 in reduction. Also, keep in mind what you learned about North Korea's current leader, Kim Jong-un, who turned 33 years old in 2016 and 2017, according to the long-nosed lying media. In case you forgot, his name sums to 114, the same as World War, Pearl Harbor, etc. In other words, the strings are showing clearly. In light of the well-set stage, we should uncover the gematria of the theater of war. So, the theater of war equates to 74 in reduction. Alrighty. The Vietnam War, November 1st, 1955 to April 30th, 1975. Scottish Rite of Freemasonry equates to 111 in the septenary cipher. So November 1st, that will be looked at as 11-1, 111. Wow, 111. Notice the start date, 11-1, reminiscent of the end of the First World War, with the long strings of ones. Again, it's all about the one world order under the synagogue of Satan. On this subject, let us not forget that Satan has gematria of 55, like the year the war began. As long and drawn out as this war was, I can sum it up by decoding the name Vietnam, which yields the all too familiar number 84 as well as a 42. So Vietnam equates to 84 in ordinal. Vietnam equates to 42 in reverse reduction. Just like the Korean War, this was a civil war, the North versus the South, with the same allies backing the same regions. Russia and China backed the north half, and the United States backed the southern half upon its entrance, March 8, 1965. It makes one think the shorter Korean War was a warm-up for the greater war to come, which was also about pulling more people of the world into the New World Order and making them debt slaves. Just as South Korea provides cheap labor and goods for the United States and other parts of the world, so does Vietnam. As for the start date of the U.S. involvement, think March 8 or 3/8 or also 8/3 in light of the 38th parallel boundary for North and South Korea. For good measure, I offer a couple more related gematria relevant terms, militarism and war, corresponding perfectly with the date. So, the word militarism equates to 38 in the septenary cipher. War equates to 83 in the Frank-Baconus cipher. For the date 3/8/1965, you would add 3 plus 8 plus 1 plus 9 plus 6 plus 5. It equates to 32. And the date 7/4/1776, you add 7 plus 4 plus 1 plus 7 plus 7 plus 6. It equates to 32. America equates to 32 in reduction. Of course, the United States entered the war because of a now admitted hoax, even by Robert McNamara, the Secretary of Defense for the United States at the time of the invasion, who coughed up the truth in his documentary, The Fog of War. That incident, now known to be a complete farce, was the Gulf of Tonkin incident, where the United States parked its military boat in close proximity to the fighting going on in Vietnam, then cried wolf that Vietnamese naval forces attacked their ship. Think of the obvious tactics of deception and how pathetic it all was from the get, long before the admitting of the lie that it was. The incident came on a fitting date, August 2nd, 1964, having numerology of 74 and 93, numbers having to do with killing, Masonic, the theater of war, Saturn, and propaganda, where again in war the first casualty is the truth. So the date 8/2/64 equates to 74. 8 plus 2 plus 64. 8/2/1964. 8 plus 2 plus 19 plus 64 equates to 93. The date August 2nd can also be expressed as 2/8, which connects to the word kill, or 8/2, which connects to the word soldier. Also interesting, the word military has ordinal gematria of 107, and the number 107 is the 28th prime. Adding to the intrigue is the gematria of Gulf of Tonkin incident, which points to the United States of America and death through the output of 228. So, Gulf of Tonkin incident equates to 228 in the ordinal cipher. Death equates to 228 in the Sumerian cipher. The name of the incident also reminds of the start date of the war, 11/1. Gulf of Tonkin incident equates to 111 in reduction, K as 11. The U.S. government also reported there was a second attack on August 4th or 8/4, a date that goes without explaining, especially when we know that Vietnam equates to 84, in addition to the long list of other things that do. The coordinates of the incident were the 19th parallel north, our number connecting to chaos, and the tactic of order out of chaos, which again sums to 75, like the year the war would end, 1975. The incident was also on the 106th meridian west, which is a number representing authority and prophecy in gematria terms. Remember, to the psychopaths, they are controlling the destiny of their one world order, which they call prophecy, for profit, at the expense of the Goyim. I got a news flash for them, though. They're not going to make it. I should also mention that from the August 4th attack, which was the 216th day of the year, to the U.S. invasion on March 8, 1965, was 216 days later. Recall, that number is the product of 6 times 6 times 6, the number of the beast, where the beast is time, and time is the ultimate authority. On the subject of the Goyim being ruled over by those who worship all that is evil, and which is also associated with the beast, Jim Morrison, the front man for The Doors, the rock band, did his best to clue the unknowing masses in with his "You're all a bunch of idiots, you're all a bunch of slaves" speech, which was given March 1st, 1969 in Miami, Florida, and had much to do with his feelings on the war, among other things. The reason it matters, Jim Morrison gave such a speech, is because his father, George Stephen Morrison, was the commander of the naval forces and a boat that was supposedly attacked on August 2nd and August 4th, 1964. In other words, Jim knew things more than the average person, and he was trying to tell the people to wake up to the tyranny and do something about it. If you've never heard his speech from that night, it was likely fateful for him, because he was found dead July 3rd, 1971, or 7/3, in Paris, France, the same day his father retired from the military. As we have learned, sacrifice has gematria of 73, and in the case of his speech, it came on a date with numerology of 73. Wow, so 3/1/69, 3 plus 1 plus 69 equates to 73. That's the date, March 1st, 1969. Sacrifice equates to 73 in the ordinal cipher. We'll learn more about Jim's death in the chapter on murder by numbers, as he is one of many rock stars to pass at the age of 27 years old. But for now, you can appreciate the coincidence of his death on the date of his father's retirement. His father would also be disposed of by the numbers November 17th, 2008, the day leaving 44 days left in the year, a number that has everything to do with military, and a date that factors into the word military in two ways, as mentioned. Military also has ordinal gematria of 107, what is the 28th prime, where the number 28 represents kill, and he died on 11/17. Notice further, he died 33 years after the Vietnam War ended, where he was the man who oversaw the war game that instigated the whole thing. Wow, so George Stephen Morrison also equates to 113, reverse reduction, H counted as 10. United States equates to 113, reverse reduction, E counted as 22. We'll close with the fact that the war ended on the 120th day of the year, the number corresponding with Illuminati, and the date that was the 30-year anniversary of the supposed death of Hitler, who never had his body recovered. Wow. Okay. The Six-Day War, June 5th, 1967 to June 10th, 1967. Let us begin with a little gematria that exposes how blatant this ordeal was. As we decode, keep in mind Star of David and Orthodox equate to 119 in gematria. Six-Day War equates to 119 reverse ordinal. This war began June 5th, 1967 and ended on the sixth day, June 10th, 1967. It was a power grab by Israel to obtain more territory, which is exactly what happened with their powerful military paid for by U.S. taxpayers. In the war that lasted less than a week, Israel captured the Gaza Strip and the Sinai Peninsula from Egypt, the West Bank from Jordan, and the Golan Heights from Syria, what you might call prime real estate. The reason it lasted 6 days, concluding June 10th, was because this was part of the ongoing, contrived prophecy code, where Israel was first recognized as a nation November 29th, 1947, a date having numerology of 106, not unlike June 10th or 10/6. So the date 11/29/1947, you would add 11 plus 29 plus 19 plus 47 equals 106. Prophecy equates to 106 in ordinal. When you write out 6 as a word, it also has gematria corresponding with prophecy, as well as the remembered name Six-Day War. As we decode, don't forget what is special about the number 52 in relation to Kabbalah, which is mostly a Jewish practice. The word 6 equates to 52 in ordinal. Six-Day War equates to 52 in reduction, S counted as 10. For even more interesting, even more interesting, the start date of the war, June 5th, written 5/6, factors into the name of the war, as well as all-seeing eye, which has gematria of 56 as well as 119. Six-Day War equates to 56 reverse reduction. Wow. June 5th, the start date, is also the 156th day of the year, connecting back to 33 and reminding that the nation of Israel was recognized as a nation by the United Nations, having a 33-part symbol, November 29th, the 333rd day of the year, with 33 in favor votes. Thus, as short as the war was, it fit the same numerical patterns of wars that lasted much longer, and it isn't hard to understand why. Wow. The Gulf War, First Gulf War, August 2nd, 1990 to February 28, 1991. This was the war to remove Saddam Hussein from power in Iraq by the United States of America after his supposed chemical weapons attack on Kuwait, which lasted August 2nd and August 3rd, 1990. At this point, both of those dates should pop out to you in light of the significance of the numbers 28, 38, 82, and 83. In addition to those standout figures, let us take the date numerology of the beginning of the attack and war, and as we decode the numbers behind the date, think about how September 11th, 2001 would lead into a second operation in Iraq, where instead of George H.W. Bush as president, it would be his crackhead son, who I used to call Uncle Numbnuts, a name I still find fitting along with Shrub, the sorry and pathetic man that he was, who at the same time seems like a Greek god in comparison to the latest offering from the Republican Party, the orange man with the blonde fluff known as the $1,000,000 comb-over. As dumb as you have to be to support either party, you have to be really fucking retarded to support the Republicans. Just look at their history. What the fuck is wrong with you people? Snap the fuck out of it, dipshits. You're going to get us all killed, you pathetic fucking losers. Sorry, that was Jim Morrison speaking. That's funny. So for the date, 8/2/1990, 8 plus 2 plus 19 plus 90 equals 119. That's funny. Moving on. The war lasted exactly 211 days from start to finish. August 2nd, 1990 to February 28, 1991, where 211 is the 47th prime, the number symbolizing time, and the degrees on the compasses of the Freemasons logo. At the same time, in Jewish gematria, the word Mason also equates to 211. Notice further how the name Saddam Hussein also has gematria of 47. Wow. And it does have the gematria of 47. In case you do not understand, Saddam Hussein was a New World Order puppet as well. If you're not aware of what happened after the World Wars, the entire Middle East was carved up. New boundaries were set, new leaders were installed, and it has been a one world order puppet show ever since. If you're asking, what about Syria's leader, Bashar al-Assad? His September 11th birthday should tell you all you need to know. See the date the Arab League was established, which was March 22nd, 1945, where March 22nd can be expressed as 22/3 or 3/22, both special numbers to Masonry that we have learned a good deal about and will continue to learn more about next chapter, which focuses on September 11, 2001. So 22/3, that would be viewed as 223 for Synagogue of Satan. The Synagogue of Satan equates to 223, and 3/22, 322, that is the number of Yale Skull and Bones. Wow. On the date of March 29, 2008, Muammar Gaddafi, the leader of Libya, who was a controlled leader by the NWO as well, gave a speech breaking the code of silence. It is one I recommend you watch and is just a web search away. He was disposed of not long after, and possibly for telling the truth of that day. Muammar Gaddafi equates to 58. As for the date the first Gulf War ended, it was a tribute to the United States of America, the biggest bicep of the New World Order's military prowess. As we know, the date February 28 or 2/8 is very much like the ordinal gematria of United States of America, summing to 228. And with the tribute of the 211 and 47, we should not forget the birthday of the U.S., July 4th or 4/7. On the subject of 47, recall how the motto for the compasses in the Freemason logo has gematria of 333. So does the gematria of Gulf War, as follows: Gulf War also equates with New World Order through 174. So, let me see. He doesn't say which cipher it is for here, but Gulf War equates to 333. Gulf War also equates to 174 in Frank Baconis. But I will look up Gulf War really quick to tell you which cipher it equates to 333 in. So give me 1 second here. Let me. Okay, Gulf War. Alright, ciphers, all ciphers. And we're looking for 333. Let me go back to the book. Actually, I don't see 333. Did I spell it correctly? Let me see here. Oh, come on. Just give me a second. I'll be right back. And Frank Baconis, I wonder. I'm gonna leave that be for a minute, but I didn't see 333. Maybe he. And just one more time. Oh, satanic. I see it now. So Gulf War equated to 333 in the satanic cipher. Alrighty. And Gulf War equates to 174 in the Frank Baconis cipher. Okay, moving right along. U.S. invasion of Afghanistan, October 7th, 2001. Alright. The United States invaded Afghanistan October 7, 2001, exactly 26 days after September 11, 2001, attacking a nation that had absolutely nothing to do with September 11, 2001. There was no man in a cave responsible. I believe that too. As we learned in chapter 1, Crusade has gematria of 26, as does the word kill. As we have also learned, the word military has gematria of 107, not unlike the date October 7th, or 10/7. By December 17, 2001, the United States had driven the Taliban government from power and installed a permanent military occupation of the nation that is still, present today. From the invasion date October 7th to the takeover date December 17th was a distance of 71 days later, corresponding with the gematria of Afghanistan. Afghanistan equates to 71, reverse reduction, H as 10. Alright, the difference in Afghanistan with the United States in control. Okay, the difference in Afghanistan with the United States in control as opposed to the Taliban is opium production is way up and heroin usage across the world has skyrocketed. Not by accident. It is because the United States of America is a nation run by the false Jews gangsters, the false Jew gangsters, who control with all things evil, from war to making addicts of the down and out people who are the victims of their sinister ways, which we, the people of the world who were born without a silver spoon in our mouth, know well. Coming up in areas where opportunities are few and far between, but drugs are a dime a dozen. All the meanwhile, the federal government, which serves the Zionist tyrants, presents itself as some sort of hero, while demonizing the innocent people of the world, incarcerating addicts who have fallen victim to their environment, and justifying the dropping of bombs on the heads of brown people across the globe that now, at this day and age, are piloted to their target by remote controlled drone aircraft. Wow. On the subject of the illicit plan to flood the world with heroin, Noam Chomsky, the MIT professor and author, who is a compromised asset in the truth community working for the CIA, did admit that him and Pat Tillman were collaborating on a book about the United States military being used to grow opium poppies and guard the production fields in the wake of Pat Tillman's very suspicious death. Notice how the name Pat Tillman equates to 71, just like Afghanistan where he was killed. Wow, so Pat Tillman equates to 71 in the reverse reduction cipher. I should also mention that poor Pat Tillman had the name gematria of death. Recall, in Jewish gematria, death equates to 118. Pat Tillman equates to 118 in the ordinal cipher. I should also reveal that Noam Chomsky really is, in light of the fact that MIT has ordinal gematria of 42. I think I read that wrong. I should also reveal who Noam Chomsky really is, in light of the fact that MIT has ordinal gematria of 42. Chomsky equates to 187 in Frank Baconus. Noam Chomsky equates to 47 in reduction. Wow. So Noam is Noam. His last name Chomsky. Noam Chomsky. In case you forgot the Pat Tillman story, he was the NFL football player who gave up his dream job to serve in Afghanistan. It was reported on April 22nd, 2004, the 112th day of the year, he was killed in action. Then later the story changed to he was killed by friendly fire. Then later the U.S. military admitted he was killed by a gunshot to the back of his head from point blank range. What I wonder as I write this is, how is it 2017, 13 years later, and people are still taking anything the media or military reports seriously? How can a story go from being killed in combat to being killed by friendly fire in combat to being assassinated with a gunshot to the back of his brain? Instead of finding the pair that should be in every man's jeans, they keep lacing up their boots and going off to work to pay their tax burdens to their lying slave masters, and it's a damn shame. This tyranny needs to be put to an end, and not a day past tomorrow. For the record, the tyrants have used opium for centuries to subdue the masses. The gematria behind the word tells the tale. So, the word opium equates to 17 septenary cipher. Opium equates to 26 Chaldean cipher. Opium equals 74 in ordinal. And opium equals 147 in the Frank Baconus cipher. Alrighty. The Iraq War, Second Gulf War, March 20th, 2003, December 18th, 2011. This war began 555 days after September 11, 2001, matching the height of the Washington Monument in feet and the specifics of the architecture of the Pentagon. Let us begin our decoding with the gematria of Iraq War, in light of the build-up to how it began. Don't forget the name Freemason has gematria of 42 and 48 as we decode. Also, let us not forget how Nu has gematria of 42 and breaks down to 5 plus 5 plus 5. Iraq War equates to 48, reverse reduction. Iraq War equates to 42 in reduction. I'll never forget March 18th, 2003, the 77th day of the year. Shrub King George II, Uncle Numbnuts, standing in the G-spot on the 77th Meridian West, gave Saddam Hussein 48 hours to step down as leader of Iraq, or he was coming to avenge his father, who didn't finish the job in the Gulf War and who supposedly had an assassination attempt on his life ordered by Saddam, the NWO puppet of Iraq, while Papa Bush was visiting Kuwait April 14th and 16th through the 16th, 1993. That date, April 14th or 14/4, should pop out in light of the history of Lincoln, Kennedy, and others. 144. Wow. I was a student in Arizona in March of 2003, attending my second year of college, and I was ready to hop in my car and drive across the country just so I could uppercut George in his chin after his 48 hours address. I was long fed up, having seen through the obvious bullshit selection of him as the president, the lies of September 11, 2001, and everything that had happened since. It was those things that led to this book and me cracking their code, which I was determined to do then as I am now. If only I had figured it out in 2003. I think they'd already be finished. Man, that would be awesome. On March 21st and March 22nd of 2003, Operation Shock and Awe would be carried out. A name crafted in '96 by Harlan K. Ullman and James P. Wade out of the National Defense University of Washington, D.C. Shock and awe equates to 58 in reverse reduction. CNN reported the news of the destruction of Baghdad on the 33rd parallel north and 44th meridian east in the biblical heartland as if it was an action flick. Notice the coordinates were ripe for military war games. CNN anchor Wolf Blitzer, the Zionist Jew scum, born March 22, 1948, said in his most ecstatic voice that it was the most awesome display of force he'd seen in his 30 years as a newsman, which was a remark he made on his 55th birthday, appropriate for being the proud member of the synagogue of Satan that he is. In case you're not familiar with Wolf, he's such a lying scum. He even told a story on live television about how he never got to know his parents because they were killed in the Holocaust. Somehow that story went unchecked, despite the fact that he was born 3 years after the war ended. But for these false Jews on TV, you must consider that lying is a daily obligation, and they almost never get checked. So what was one more lie for a paid-for conman such as Wolf? Consider, the Holocaust never happened anyway, so what's it matter if he was born 3 years after the fact? Shit. In the weeks after the invasion, one of the first major stories was the toppling of the Saddam Hussein statue in Firdos Square on the date April 9th, 2003, which is the 99th day of the year. The U.S. media reported it as if it was an act of the people of Iraq, but it was later exposed that the U.S. military had set up the toppling of the statue, then with the help of the media created a photo opportunity that made it seem as if it was the action that was the will of the people. Again, in war, the first casualty is the truth. Don't forget that America has gematria of 49 either, and the United States of America sums to 99. Also, at the same time, other headlines were emerging about the world's oldest museums in Iraq being toppled, and some of the oldest known history to the world being destroyed and vanishing. It isn't hard to guess who was responsible for this. Just like the novel 1984, the tyrants at the top are constantly destroying old history and fictionalizing the past as well as the present. No different than what we see in this world. On July 22nd, 2003, a date having a relationship with pi, 22 divided by 7, it was reported that the sons of Saddam Hussein were killed. They were Qusay Hussein and Uday Hussein, who both had name gematria corresponding with authority. In terms of Qusay, the date numerology of his death also corresponded with his name, Qusay Hussein, and his name is spelled Qusay, so it could be Qusay, but I think it's Qusay. I'm not totally sure, but Qusay or Qusay Hussein, his name equate to 52 in reduction. And the date he died, 7/22/2003, you add 7 plus 22 plus 20 plus 03 equates to 52. Uday or Uday, his name is Uday Hussein, Uday Hussein, his name equates to 47. Also pertinent, they were killed on the 125th day of the war in Mosul, Iraq. Mosul, Iraq equates to 125 in ordinal. In Kabbalah, there are 125 degrees of spirituality. With that said, don't forget there is a demonic side of Kabbalah where everything is flipped upside down. The word spiritual equates to 125 in the ordinal cipher. You might recall how the media proudly displayed their corpses covered in blood. It truly was sick, and worst of all, the people around me were celebrating it as if nothing better had ever happened. It was a certain reminder where I lived, the nation ruled over by the synagogue of Satan, where the people were their blind minions. Okay, gotcha. It was a certain reminder where I lived, the nation ruled over by the synagogue of Satan, where the people were their blind minions and followers, not having learned from the wise voices that came before them, who taught to think for yourself and question authority. Consider, these people were celebrating in the same days. Half the nation was driving around with a picture of Osama bin Laden on the rear of their car with a target over his face and a yellow ribbon that meant support the troops, as if supporting teenagers being sent off to fight for a lie was some sort of honorable thing to do. As they say, sheep will be sheep. Furthermore, the only thing people signing up for the military man, I lost my plot. There was a whole lot here, but give me 1 second. Furthermore, the only people signing up for the military were sheep, teens or older. Trust me, I know, because I could have just as well been deployed. The difference is, when I was 17 in the year 2000, I walked into the military recruiter's office and told them literally, fuck off, stop calling me. I'm not signing up for the mercenary force to fight wars for lies. And 9/11 hadn't even happened yet. I had foresight. I knew where I lived. And it's a shame more people didn't know just the same. Absolutely. Of course, It is because people are blind and they don't see all the homeless, starving men on the corners of roads with cardboard signs that say Vietnam Vet. I did though, and I paid attention to what my uncles told me who did serve, who knew the military was nothing more than an evil entity exploiting people for gains that had nothing to do with the well-being of the nation. How everyone in the U.S. didn't know that after Vietnam was beyond me. Then again, as the author Gore Vidal has famously said, this country is the United States of amnesia, where no one remembers anything past Monday. On December 13, 2003, Saddam Hussein would be found in a foxhole outside of his hometown in Tikrit, just north of the 33rd parallel north in Operation Red Dawn. Wow, so the word Tikrit equates to 33 in reduction. Red Dawn equates to 33 in reduction as well. Notice they named the operation after a Hollywood flick. Fittingly, the date of the capture had numerology of 48, matching the gematria of Iraq War, Tikrit, and Hollywood. And I wouldn't be surprised in the least, knowing Saddam was an NWO puppet, if the entire thing was a staged scene for television. Wow. The date 12/13/2003, 12 plus 13 plus 20 plus 03 equates to 48. Iraq War equates to 48 in reverse reduction. Tikrit equates to 48 reverse reduction. As you'll recall, the justification for invading Iraq was because they supposedly had weapons of mass destruction, where Donald Rumsfeld is remembered saying, "We know where Iraq's WMDs, are. They're in the area around Tikrit and Baghdad and east, west, south, and north somewhat." I would also add, we saw from the air that there were dozens of trucks that went into that facility after the existence of it became public in the press, and they moved things out. They dispersed them and took them away. So there may be nothing left. I don't know that, but it's way too soon to know. The exploitation is just starting. Of course, the WMDs were never recovered because they never existed. And at the point in history, we were being lied to from every which way, being led in continual circles and not coincidentally. In light of this fact, notice the ordinal gematria of weapons of mass destruction, which sums to 314, not unlike 3.14 for pi. So weapons of mass destruction equates to 314 in the ordinal cipher. Take a moment to decode the name Donald Rumsfeld. You'll notice it has gematria of 58 and 77, and also gematria of 118, corresponding with Pentagon and death. With no weapons found and Saddam Hussein arrested, the reasons for invading Iraq were complete by December of 2003. Yet the war would continue until December 18, 2011, more than 8 additional years. This length of time also came after Donald Rumsfeld said we would be in and out, and the war would take but weeks. Of course, in the time we were there, we built countless military bases, proving that our intentions were to set up a permanent military presence, which is now exactly what we have in Iraq. Even though the war ended, our occupation did not, and it never will, because as you know, militarism is the way of the madmen, and the United States is their top mercenary fleet. Please also recall what is significant about the date December 18th, which we learned about when we discussed the death of Franz Ferdinand, who had a December 18th birthday. As you'll recall, it has multiple parallels to Saturn, the keeper of time, having to do with death and judgment, which is what war is. In the case of December 18, 2011, it was also a date numerology of 61, the number symbolizing time through gematria. Wow. So 12, 18, 2011, 12 plus 18 plus 20 plus 11 equates to 61. The word time equates to 61 in reverse ordinal. Concluding thoughts on wars by the numbers. If you have a friend or family member in the military, you need to convince them to stand down and end their service, no matter what the consequences might be. If it means military prison for them, then so be it. If you are in the military, you need to find the courage to do this yourself. You have chosen wrong, and for choosing wrong, you deserve whatever consequences are coming for you. That is the way it works. Bad choices deserve punishment, and you have chosen horribly. To be in the military at this day and age, especially in the United States or UK, is to be completely blind to all that is sane. To be in the military at this day and age, especially in the United States or UK, is to be completely blind to all that is sane and to be a disgrace to your fellow man. That said, by showing courage and making the right choice, now you can change your fate and you can right your wrongs. If enough people take this stand, there won't be enough cells to hold the soon-to-be inmates. Alternatively, the consequences of you, your friend or family member, continuing to participate as a NWO mercenary, New World Order mercenary, which is exactly what you are, means we'll all be in prison before long. A prison that is being built more secure around us each day, which involves the spiritual and the physical. Without the military and without the police, the New World Order tyrants have no one to defend them, and that is exactly how it needs to be. There is a war coming, and it is going to be the first war fought in modern history for actual freedom, something that has not happened in eons. The only wars we know about thus far, the ones in the history books, they've all been to build the slave ship we're currently collectively living on. So do your part in helping end the madness. Be all you can be to end the tyranny. There shouldn't be a single soldier on the side of the tyrants the day the war for freedom comes. Wow. And that was the conclusion of chapter 14, entitled Crusades, Wars, and World Wars by the Numbers. I hope you enjoy the reading and can overlook all the skips and bumps here that I made, but I hope it'll prompt you to get the book, read the book, understand the information, so you can get a better understanding of what is written within these books and get a better understanding as to what is really taking place. Thank you guys for listening. Give the video a like and a share so someone else can find the information, and also to find out how to obtain these books, Letters and Numbers and Number Games. Alright, until next time, thank you and have a good evening.